they are right now probably the most likely team to go in the Super Bowl. And but in order for them to get there, they've got to go by us, hopefully 2 times.
That's Jerry Jones talking about the 49ers. He also did some defensive breakdowns and took one of the host's complaints about Micah Parsons being in the game late during a blowout, and Jerry assured him they'd look at that. Jerry also said Tyron Smith, don't know if he'll be back for this game, but that he thinks Micah Parsons will be good to go and that Zach Martin will be good to go. Jerry you can talk about anything with Jerry. Jerry also said that Mike McCarthy told him ahead of time about the fake extra point they were going to run.
The fake extra point is one of the cooler plays I've seen this season.
It was good.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it was really good.
To 99, walking in the end zone. Not even just how cool it was, how just they clearly know that Belichick is coming hell bent off the corner and we're going to sneak this guy and he's going to walk in, everyone celebrating with him. Love it when the snapper completes the holder completes a pass. It was an all-time. Do you know that game is the biggest loss of Belichick's career? It was the biggest halftime deficit, biggest loss of his career. I mean, that's a Belichick low point.
I mean, he's down 28-3. His quarterback throws one pick six, and they have a fumble six. So they only gave up 14 points in the first half defensively, right?
Well, they have scored a lot of points this year, the Cowboys. I looked the other day. Obviously, they're 3-1. The other 3 games were a rout, and 2 of the 3 of them they were up 20-plus points at halftime. The Jets game turned out, I think 30-10 was the final score. It was 18-10 at halftime, but it did not look that close. So they are, to me, like I think this is the U.S. Ryder Cup problem. Great front runners. They don't really battle well. I think the Cowboys they had to battle one game and they lost. And they've had to battle with the 49ers the last 2 years in the playoffs and they lost. When they're out front running, like that game, you could feel like this feels like an NBA, like a Steph Curry NBA game where they're just hitting threes. Bland looks like Deion Sanders firing down the sideline. I mean, they are just teeing off. Places like they hit that 2-point play. I mean, you got everyone in the special teams field goal units fucking partying in the end zone. The place is going nuts. Jerry's going nuts. If they front run against you, like if they were to get a 14-3 lead or something against the Niners, you'd be in some trouble because they just tee off on the pass rush, McKivitz. But if it's just like a 10-10 game, 12-9, something just tough, that's where they kind of unravel. At least this iteration, the last couple of years, in my opinion, with the Cowboys. Front running, they're elite.
Look, Mike McCarthy's won a championship, excellent coach by almost every measure, right? Jim Harbaugh has not won a championship, but an excellent coach by every measure. I look at them somewhat similarly, which is you don't have to knock their teams out in the first quarter. Just play the full game with them and make them make as many plays as you and make them limit their mistakes as much as you do. My fundamental belief is in those spots, Mike McCarthy's teams and Jim Harbaugh's teams will make the fatal mistake that cost them the game or fail to make the play that wins them the game. That's my when you watch, John, the 2-minute offense that these guys have run against the Niners 2 years ago in the postseason on the road wasn't when they tried to steal fake yards down the at the very end of the game where they tried to move the ball up and it cost them the game. Embarrassing. And the way they ran it last year, I think it's a window into who they are. Now that said, they're still a very
on Dak too. Like I mean, he's not dealing with Aaron Rodgers here.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not saying they can't beat you. And I'm not saying they're not really good. I'm saying I think they are. There are little cracks that if you keep the pressure on them, and this is what you're saying, if you keep the pressure on them, that's the best way. Just make them fight a full round, whatever. How long is the boxing? 12, 14, whatever. However long it is, make them fight. The full 12, the full 14, just use whichever cut's accurate.
Yeah.
Because by all the metrics, I mean, they are number 1 in defensive points, number 1 in yards, number 1 in defensive pass yards, number 1 in defensive passing touchdowns, 9th in rushing yard defense, number 1 in touchdowns allowed, number 1 in red zone touchdowns allowed, number 1 in red zone touchdown percentage, which is a stat I love, right? The percentage of your red zone trips that are touchdowns. They're number 1. Their defense is across the board very good.
Well, they gotta have scored the most touchdowns on defense so far this year. I mean, I can think of like 4 off the top of my head. I mean,
yeah, I mean they've
they just now they have eaten alive, right? McCorkle, Zach Wilson, and Daniel Jones. And Purdy's better than those guys. And Kyle's better than what they're like. The Purdy-Kyle combination has been better than the 49ers offense. But this is a massive, awesome game. The ratings are going to be stupid high. Everyone's going to be paying attention. It just doesn't get any bigger. Jerry, the Cowboys are just good. This is the third time they've played now in whatever it feels like 18 months. 2 of them are playoff games. I think one thing Jerry hit on, hopefully we play him twice. Like I hope we play him twice too. Like I kind of like this becoming part of becoming a rivalry though is you need the other team to win. You know, that's the problem here. It feels kind of one-sided. I actually think it would add if the 49ers were to lose this game, it would add some juice to the whole thing.
Yeah, if they were to meet in the playoff
is this a bigger game for the Cowboys or the 49ers?
Cowboys. And I think that's part of what Jerry is saying, right? Is like, we got to go through them. I think Jerry Jones, who's a showman too, but I think he gets it. And I think that's what he's saying. We have to go through them. It's a bigger game for us. Part of what he said in there was, we've done a lot of stuff, but we got to do it against these guys. So, I think that's what's interesting about the Niners is they've become the team to go through, where Philly still, now that's kind of external. Right, I don't know the Niners are looking at themselves any differently. Philadelphia, meanwhile, is 4-0, and they haven't played their best football yet. That's what they would tell you.
You know who they play this week?
No, who do the Eagles play?
Rams at L.A.
Okay.
I'm just kind of interesting that both Cowboys and Eagles are coming out here.
Yeah.
Weekend. I mean, that's 2 pretty big games. The 49er, I was just looking at the schedule. I mean, thank God for the Eagles and Rams because it's Bengals, Arizona, Jets, Denver, Chiefs, Minnesota. I mean, it's a rough afternoon. Rough.
Only need one, John.
It's a bad slate. A lot of Houston, Atlantas.
Last week wasn't great.
A lot of Titans, Colts. Yeah, I guess you could have a bad slate, and if the games are good, it's entertaining. Like last week, the games were not even. They were especially in the afternoon. It was a bad afternoon.
The Cardinals scoring actually kept you kind of entertained, but
totally agree.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I think this is tough for them.
Packers, Raiders, Monday night.
Does it? Oh, that's a good one. Does it make a difference that this game's a home game for the 49ers instead of a road game? Most times you would say yes, but they go to Dallas and there's a bunch of Niner fans there. And in a weird way, I think it works in the Niners' favor because they kind of get to go, your house is not safe from us, And there will be plenty of Cowboy fans at this game, I would imagine. But
I think there are only 3 teams who are completely unfazed where they play. I think it's the Niners, the Eagles, and the Chiefs. I even think the Bills I don't trust them as much on the road. At home, they're a motherfucker. At home, they feel like a college team, like Oregon at home or something.
Miami
Georgia
different away from home.
100%.
Yeah,
I don't. Are they a lock to win a playoff game if they're the 5 seed and have to go on the road to Baltimore, right? In a place that's 10 degrees.
Against a really good defense.
And it's cold. Yeah, no.
Oh, I know what I was going to say to you. The Bland, pick 6.
Yeah.
Mac had just thrown the ball across his body, across the middle of the field to the earlier in the drive. And as it's unfolding, you're like, oh my God, bro, you really doing this? And then he does it again, and he gets coach primed.
Well, let's just talk about. Obviously, Purdy is a hot topic around the NFL. His stats speak for themselves. He's been fucking fantastic. There's just no way around it. Every metric backs it up. The results back it up. The eye test backs it up. There's an element, and listen, it's no different. Tom Brady went on to be the greatest quarterback of all time. They drafted him 199. The Patriots got very lucky. They were passing on him over and over and over again. The team that took him passed on him over and over again. You get lucky when you hit on a star, just in general in the 3rd day of the draft. Seattle, Richard Sherman, the Niners with George Kittle. It's on steroids times 100 when it's the quarterback, which there's nothing wrong with being lucky. Every human has to get lucky in any industry you're in. But I think when you look back, that he got talked out of the Mac Jones situation, and he's gone on record now as a 2-horse race. And I think what he doesn't really say is like, yeah, I was leaning Mac, and then we kind of did it like it was Mac for Kyle. That would have been, the guy isn't just a whiny little brat. The things he's done now of hitting people in the nuts, rolling ankles, like you're a fucking clown. Like, say what you want. Ndamukong Suh used to stomp on people. At least Ndamukong Suh could like back it, like he was a big time, like elite player, right? You could even argue he underachieved a little bit, but like Ndamukong Suh was a dude. Mac Jones, who the fuck are you? And if anything, the type stuff Kyle likes in players is the opposite of all that crap.
Mac Jones also,
I said it at the time, and I will. It's aged well, but it not only would have been the most arrogant pick of all time, it would have been the least talented guy. Like, say what you want about Zach Wilson, when you watch him run around and just sling a dart, he does have talent, right? Like Mac lacks the talent, guy. Like his comp was like, oh, Cousins. Cousins was a 4th-round pick because of his physical limitations. And the thing with Mac, and it would have drove Kyle nuts. Like, Purdy is athletic. Mac, I'll just turn into Mahomes here for a minute, Bill. And it's like, what are you doing? It's like, well, he doesn't have the talent around him. Well, just fucking throw the ball away then. That's like Manning and Eli's thing, right? Just play smart. If it's not there, you just got to live to play another down. Mac thinks he's like Dame Lillard out there shooting from half court. Like, what are you doing?
But I think you hit on, I want to go back to it. The problem, if the Niners had drafted Mac, wouldn't just have been that he wasn't good enough. Because Kyle said even if we'd sat at 12, he wouldn't have been there, which means Kyle would have been over the moon if he could have got him at 12, right? If you guaranteed Kyle Shanahan, he could have gotten Mac Jones at 12. He would have sat at 12 and taken him. You agree?
And then Micah goes 13th?
Yeah, but you agree with that, right?
Say that one more time.
You could have guaranteed Kyle that he stays at 12, he gets Mac. Would he have stayed at 12?
And not have to give up the 2 other ones?
Yep.
Yes.
And drafted Mac Jones? And the problem wouldn't just have been that he wasn't good enough. The problem would also have been, it turns out, that he wouldn't have fit in. He's not their type of competitor. He's not their type of leader. That turns out is the other problem with Mac Jones that we didn't even consider. Right? You thought, oh, he played for Saban. You got to be a tough SOB to play for Nick. But it turns out he would have been a bad culture fit too. Trey was a better culture fit than Mac Jones would have been.
I saw Albert Breer.
They actually took the best culture fit, John, of any quarterback they could have taken outside of Trevor Lawrence in that draft. Zach Wilson would have been worse. Fields would have been worse. Mac Jones would have been worse.
Albert Breer said last year.
So they kind of nailed it.
Yeah, he was on with Coward like last week, and he said that last year veteran players had to, and it's pretty easy to figure out who it, the McCourtys, the Slaters, basically had to kind of sit down back when he was like doing some of his ankle, like embarrassing the franchise.
Ankle biting.
What the fuck what are you doing? It's one thing to miss on the player. They missed on Trey Lance, whatever. At least he carried himself and conducted himself like a pro. I respect that. Mac Jones, I have no respect for the Mac Jones experience. Yeah, it hasn't gone, it's like, well, I'm playing for maturity. It's like, shut up. Give me a break. Thank God. I mean, look at the way Purdy conducts himself.
Exactly. And how he interacts with Kyle.
Even after he got his arm ripped, because you'd be like, well, everyone conducts himself well when it's going well. True, like most people do, right? How about when it really got shitty and he tore his arm? Just the way he carried himself, it was like, God, that's totally understand why everyone loves the guy.
And they brought in Sam Darnold.
Unfazed. You see them? I saw a clip yesterday. They walked in together to the locker room on Sundays. Maybe they drive to work together. Maybe Sam picks them up.
They did walk in together, I think, too. Yeah.
Yeah, but it turns out if Sam picks them up on the way to work.
Look at all these sideline interactions, the things we've seen with Mac over the years. Dayball was throwing a tablet at Daniel Jones last night on Monday Night Football.
Hard to blame him. To the side.
How did they I just can't get over they went from Eli face to Daniel Jones face. It's just incredible that they went back to back, those two guys.
It's crazy how big Daniel Jones is.
Huge.
He's
Ben McAdoo apparently said on radio today, he had a 7th round grade on him. Like, Ben, that's also an incorrect grade. He's not a 7th round. He's better than a 7th round pick, bro. I wouldn't puff your chest out about grading Dale Jones as a 7th round quarterback.
We can argue, he's probably like a 2nd round player, shouldn't be 6. 85 million is definitely rich, but he's a starter in the NFL.
And he's an extreme athlete, right?
Underrated part about his game.
Flav says, for $10, appreciate you. Love Brock, but if we need a quick score or have to throw, and the D knows it, what do you think Brock will be like in those moments? Only scenario, his arm strength and our own line could be an issue. We still have a lot of Brock's career to go and season to go before he proves a lot of things, but I trust him to make a quick decision. Like, I think he's proven he's very good at a quick decision, which is all that's about. Like, it's not so much about his arm strength as much as it is truly handling pressure. So that'd be my response to that.
I think they're going to get rid of the ball fast. They're going to run a lot of, I think that wide receiver Debo screen is going to get utilized a lot. I think a lot of wheel routes to McCaffrey. I think a lot of getting the ball in and out, and not the throw chart of Derek Carr, right? Of just like, bro, what are you doing?
0.4 air yards, John.
Sprained shoulder. Probably, it's like, this is what you're going to do. Don't play him. What are you guys doing? But I think getting rid of the ball quickly. I saw this clip. Papa was talking about the bomb to Ayuk, a 7-step drop, and I guess one of like JT O'Sullivan's big thing is like anti the 7-step drop, which I
Aldi had a breakdown on it too.
You got to be careful. 7-step drop. If like, are you playing like TJ Watt or is Khalil Mack got 5 sacks in the game? Like, yeah, there are certain teams and certain times in the game when you can do it. Though I don't disagree that it's a risky move, right? If you're going to do that, it does put with how many great pass rushers there are. I don't know if I'd do it this week. I think it's the opposite, unless you get your scheme chance. That's the other thing. This is the type game historically. Let's just assume it's going to be close and the Niners aren't just going to win 30-15. There are going to be 2 or 3 times during this game when they're going to get the Kyle schemed, Dwelly blocks, breaks off wide open. A fake pitch play where Ayuk fakes the block and goes deep that they're going to have to hit. Because that is a big difference, I think, in some of the Jimmy moments was their completion percentage on those felt lower than it should have been on the wide open ones.
Yeah.
And I have much more faith in Brock hitting those. Now, he's missed a couple early in that Rams game, right? Schemed open shots. I think it didn't matter in that game. I do think in the Eagle game, in the Cowboy game, in the playoff games, that's ultimately probably, to me, going to come down to the difference. Like, are they the Super Bowl champs? Or did they get upset in the 2nd round by the Cowboys? It's like, they're fucking there. It's football. It's hard. I mean, speaking of Harbaugh, right? Like, I'm watching college football, like, could this be his year? I keep, like, this is wide open for him. And you're like, I couldn't bet on it.
It won't be, John.
Because he had his opportunity last year against TCU and he let it down. Yeah. The 49ers they didn't really get to have their opportunity last year.